local question for us, I guess. Now that you've been able to evaluate spring a little bit, where's DeAndre Johnson? What kind of spring did he have, and what does he need to work on?
Yeah, solid spring. He's got a lot of potential. Very talented, very instinctive. We remember, in fact, just had a meeting with him today. We were doing our exit meetings. We were going out. But he's got a chance to be a really good player. Very instinctive, leads naturally, and then just keep getting a grasp of the offense and what he's got to do and getting in and out of the right plays. And he reacts things. The good thing about him, even as those young guys, they kind of know what to do, but there's part of it they still don't know. He's one of those guys that always seems to do the right thing when the gray area is left. You know what I mean? And he has a lot of instincts, gets rid of the ball very accurate. I think has a chance to be an excellent quarterback. Just got to grasp knowledge of the offense and keep growing in what he's doing and get fundamentally better. But he's doing a really nice job. Been very pleased with his spring.
A couple of weeks ago, you said we pretty much have stocked a few NFL rosters with the guys who have left here, which obviously is true. So how have you approached this year differently? Is it different?
No, not one bit. Not one bit. I still think we're an extremely talented football team. We're young because we've had so many early. I've had 9 in the last 2 years. Guys come out early. But I said this again. I keep saying I'm anxious to coach this team. I mean, there's going to be some frustrating times. There's going to be some wild times. There's going to be some just jubilation times. And then getting them to be consistent and understand what they can be, because it's an extremely young team, but extremely talented. And it's just like young kids. They frustrate you, then you push them and you grow, and daggone, what are you doing? And you go, wow, wow, wow. Then you see the talent, and then they'll revert back occasionally, you know what I mean? And that's the key, is going to be getting that out of there, you know what I mean? And but what we approach it the same way. What we got to understand, though, as I say this, each team takes its own identity. Last year's team was different than the 13 team. Its identity, its personality, the way it does things. And each team has to do that, and we have to recognize that and then play to those strengths, offense and defense and special teams. But it'd be interesting.
Part of that is from the quarterback, though. I mean, 2 years ago you had to decide between two guys, and you picked Jameis. Last year you went in knowing Jameis was going to be your guy.
But not necessarily. Everybody gets caught on the quarterback. There were so many dynamic leaders that left from that 13 team. From Kelvin Smith is as good a leader as I've been around in football in 25, 27 years. How long I've been in the business, I can't even remember. Well, y'all have to look that up. But Kelvin was dynamic. Joyner was dynamic. Timmy Jernigan was dynamic. Devontae Freeman was dynamic. Jameis, they all were, but everybody was different. You know what I mean? And there were some dynamics from that team that had nothing to do with the quarterback that made our team last year so different. And even Terrence Brooks, I mean, all of them. And then each team does that every year. And it's not, everybody gets caught in the quarterback, and because that's the focal point. But the guys around that quarterback, this is why football is so unique, and quarterbacking is so hard to play, that position. And that you can do your job, but if the guys around you aren't doing things, it makes you adjust. And can you adjust to them? And it's going to be a key too, not just the quarterback, but how the guys around play. And that's been the dynamic of football, that it's been so different, and was different for us even last year.
Do you know what your plans are for the job?
Yeah, probably right. Most likely will be Thursday. Probably be in Birmingham with Jameis at his deal, and then Friday and Saturday I'll be back in the draft and do some NFL Network things on those days up there.
Jimbo, are you happy in any way, or that Tim's getting another shot in the NFL?
Who, Tebow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, that's interesting. And he came back that way, and I just saw that today. I didn't see any details on it or heard any comments on it, but that's, you have to get it out of your system. You know what I mean? You have to. I think when you're a player at that age, if you still have the ambition to go, you should go. And I think, with Chip and the different things he does, it could be very interesting how he's used or what's going on to be it. Because, again, I just heard about today. I haven't read anything or heard Chip's comments or anything of that nature. But Timmy's a very unique guy. I got to know him in recruiting and had a ton of respect, watched him as a player. But, it'll be interesting how Chip uses him. And there's definitely still a passion to play. And he's a competitor now.
You got to see Kelvin play all the time. Of course, when we saw him at Combine and workouts and all that, and then we got to see him play. So for you, it was not a surprise at all.
No.
That he was able to take his game and transfer it at that level.
Kelvin is probably one of the most underrated football players in Florida State history. People don't realize how good a football player Kelvin Smith was. I'm talking about really, really, really good. And again, as good a leader as I've ever been around. I mean, the dynamics of what he brought to the table. And to lead this team in tackles over here at Jacksonville, and I think he weighed about 208 or 10 pounds the whole year. I mean, you say it, but he's 60. His ability to be, as I said when I evaluated him, that was the same question everybody had when we took him. Is he too little? I said, I want to know this. When I look at linebackers, if they're around the pile, I don't want them. When they're in the bottom of the pile, I want them. Every time I turned the film on and watched him when he was in high school, he was at the bottom of the pile. Whether it was special teams, on a run, on a pass, and they had him playing offense in the spring I was there. Somehow, if there was something going on, he was in the middle of it. And the guy loves ball. And he doesn't just love, and he loves teammates. He loves that atmosphere. I mean, he's a very, very unique individual in a lot of ways, man. I mean, extremely underrated. And even I think in the history of Florida, I don't think people realize how good a football player he was.
A week removed from spring, maybe some things become apparent that weren't obvious right after the spring game, some things that maybe you learned or things that development guys made?
No, I was again, I thought we were about where I thought we would be in spring. Again, young, some really good moments, some frustrating moments at times, but really starting to see where the pieces will come into place, and I think have a pretty good idea how the team will look and what will happen with it in the fall. Now we have to put those pieces in place and be very defined right now in our meetings and our exit meeting with our players is as a head coach and as position coaches to what we expect them to do in the summer to really work on and do so we can go into the fall and then have a chance to be good. And I think it's going to be very interesting how they do on their own in their own working out part, and how they take the bull by the horn and studying film on their own and those things, and then how we define that for them. But nothing that I haven't already said.
Kind of along those lines, how much can it help to have a guy come in and be an early enrollee, not just as a freshman getting ready for his first year, but kind of the long-term impact on his career?
Well, I think, first of all, you don't realize academically. If you come in and make that adjustment very well, be able to get that semester in, then a whole summer school session before you even get there, talking about getting your degree, and you get so many of those guys that have the potential to be 3-and-out guys, getting that extra semester in summer school in is tremendous. Then from a knowledge standpoint, just to get on campus, go to a class, go, and in the summer they do it, but still, like when school's going on, and to go to a full practice and know what a practice is like and what a meeting is like and what's expected of you. And it helps coming into summer, but even that hurts in two-a-days, you know what I'm saying? For those guys to go through that and then to go back into this fall camp, I think it's a tremendous advantage for them being able to jump in and know what's expected, how it's going to be, and the knowledge and the expectation of the tempo of practice, the tempo of the meetings, everything that goes on, I think will be outstanding for those guys and give them a great opportunity to be successful.
Jimbo, you talked a little bit took your Diet Coke. You talked a little bit what goes into recruiting a quarterback before. When you saw Sean for the first time, what were things that stuck out to you almost immediately?
Was athletic, had very good arm strength, made throws. On film was very tough, competitive. When you watched him, got hit a lot, competed a lot in a very good league in New Jersey. Was a leader of his team. Just a lot of intangibles that you liked in the quarterback.
What does it say about him that he stayed? A lot of guys may have left, and James just shouted.
I think it does. I mean, and in today's time, everybody wants to run. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you go back, think if Brad Johnson would have left, back with him and Casey Weldon. You had Charlie Ward sitting there, who never got to play till he was a redshirt junior. I mean, all those guys, that dynamic of ball is gone. That's not our society today. There's no patience in that. I mean, all the great ones doing the run never played to their redshirt junior, like Sean is playing now. I mean, those guys, it talks about character, about seeing the big picture, understanding that where he wants to be and what he wants in life, and it's very dynamic.
Bobby said one time that before his junior year, Charlie said, "Hey, how do you think Charlie's going to do?" He says, "I'm afraid people are going to want to fire me because I didn't play him as a sophomore."
Yep. Well, then when he played as a junior, they wanted to fire him in the first 4 games. If you remember that, huh?
Yeah.
They wanted to run him off. See, people forget that too. I mean, you forget. That's like, it was an interesting thing the other day. Somebody asked me, well, compare Jameis and Charlie. I said, you can't. They said, what do you mean? I said, Charlie never even played to right now when Jameis is leaving. Think about that statement. You know what I'm saying? I mean, guys back then, it just wasn't like that. And you give them time to mature and grow. And now kids don't. If they ain't playing by their redshirt freshman year, they're wanting to run and leave. I mean, it's a shame that those days are gone. It really is.
What does it speak out to you and your football program to have so many guys going into the draft?
Well, I think it reiterates what you're doing as far as we're graduating. We've graduated in 5 years. I've been there. 80% of our guys. We got good guys there. We won more games than anybody in this run of players in the country. And then we're having more guys drafted and may break an NCAA record, in which I know we'll tie it. I'm pretty sure we'll probably break it. but then the most in Florida. But it reiterates that what you're doing, because you always self-evaluate yourself as a coach. What we're doing as people, what we're doing is these guys graduating. Are we winning enough games? Are we doing that? And then are we developing? Because God's blessed these kids. There's another part to this that everybody doesn't realize, that these guys have a dream of playing in the NFL. And it's our responsibility as a coach to help them develop individually within a team concept for them to reach their goals. And to me, it just reiterates that we're doing the right things, and hopefully we can continue to do that. We always got to evaluate that process.
Last two questions.
Cameron, I guess, announced that he's going to attend the draft in Chicago. Just the road that Cameron Erving.
Oh, yes.
Just the road that he went from his high school to switching
Well,
positions.
that was part of that highly recruited class, and he was recruited so highly. You remember how many scholarship offers he had? The only offer he had was Florida State. Think about that. That's the only scholarship offer Cameron Erving had, was Florida State. I mean, the guy's going to be a first-round draft pick, at the worst a second. I mean, so there's another thing, that the evaluation process of things we're doing, and not wanting to follow stars or rankings or anything like that, of making your own decision. But then to watch him work and go from D-line to tackle to center, to be selfless, and his ability to develop as a person, as a player, and his intelligence level is what really allowed him and his character to make all those changes. He's going to have, I think, his best football still ahead of him.
Jimbo, you played that national championship game, then you played the Final Four, so to speak. You think that thing will evolve?
Oh, it's here to stay. It's too much money.
Yeah. You think it will evolve into bigger, different, or did you like what they did this year?
I think it's great. Well, I think it'll stay here for a while. They'll stay here for a few years till they figure out a way to make more money and keep growing it. But, at the same time, I'm still a traditionalist. I still want the bowl games to mean something. Because think about the great run that Florida State had for 14 years. Everybody talks about it, right? Well, how many national championships did you win? You won 2. Played in 5. Okay? But those other 9 years, winning the Sugar Bowl meant something. Winning the Orange Bowl meant something. Winning the Fiesta Bowl meant something. I hope, or winning the Rose Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, whatever bowl it may be, the Peach. I hope we don't get away to where we're thinking those are not great accomplishments. Because without that bowl system, you wouldn't have had a lot of these teams emerging from those lower levels, climbing up the ranks to be able to get good players and what it meant to go to a bowl game. I hope we don't forget the bowl. And I'm for championships and playoffs and all that. But I hope we don't forget the bowl system and what makes it very unique and what makes college football different than everything else. Because what happens is, if you turn it all into one tournament and what happens in that tournament, then the rest of it doesn't mean anything. I think you're losing out. I think you're ruining the game.
How much more do you hear from an NFL team when they're thinking about taking a guy number 1 overall, whether it's Jamarcus or Jameis?
No, I mean, you don't hear that much anymore. I mean, you still get the same amount of things. Because here's the thing, actually you probably hear less because there's only a few teams that have the capability of having the number 1 pick. Or a pick that high. When you have guys that can go anywhere from the 5th pick to the 2nd round to the 3rd round, from the 1st round, I mean, they could be within a 40 window draft slot. You hear from everybody. When you hear those top guys, there's only 1 or 2 teams can draft them, so you don't hear much.
Those 1 or 2 teams?
No. I mean, all those guys, whether they're paying them $25 million or $15 million, they're still doing their homework. Because that's still their number 1 pick is as valued to them as the 20th pick as that guy's is as the 1st pick to that organization. So they all do the diligence of their homework both ways.
All right, guys.